My Sassy Girl is a South Korean romantic comedy directed by Kwak Jae-yong, based on a true story told in a series of blog posts written by Kim Ho-sik, later adapted into a fictional novel. My Sassy Girl tells the story of a young woman whose name stays as a mystery, and a young man, Jeon-woo, who meet each other spontaneously under somewhat eventful circumstances while traveling on the subway. The woman, the sassy girl, is intoxicated and spewing up, while Jeon-woo finds himself caught up in the situation and proceeds to look after her, carrying her to a motel for the night. He's initially accused of taking advantage of her when he's found naked in the motel by police and is put in a jail cell for the night, but shortly later is released. The newly made duo strike up a friendship after briefly meeting to recall what happened the night before. They continue on this romantic, fun, and often painful journey together, discovering more of each other, including their past, her love for writing and telling stories set with characters from the future, and both of their somewhat complicated family relationships. Also, we find out ultimately what led the sassy girl to feel like she needs to continually have a drink and calm down, as happens in the bar when their bonding begins. For as the sassy girl, she has quite a charismatic and often daring personality. As the story unravels, we find that she had a previous love that passed on, and with the guidance of their elders, her new friend and eventual boyfriend Jeon-woo, they become closer. They appeared to be destined for each other, as referenced in the film, as we discover at the end that they were also scheduled to be put on a blind date together under completely different circumstances out of their control, and what could also be viewed as a coincidence. The sassy girl's ex-boyfriend that had passed on also happened to be the son of Jeon-woo's auntie, the same auntie he was supposed to catch up with throughout the story for a potential matchmaking, but which doesn't occur until later in the story. The Sassy Girl is a romantic, fun, and reflective story with various twists and character dynamics, showing in a way that with our words and actions, what we can manifest in our life with some perseverance and endurance, and our heart genuinely in the right place. With the various character dynamics, our first impressions show that alcohol is playing a key role in these particular people's lives. The Sassy Girl is constantly drinking at the beginning of the film, similar to her father. Jeon-woo is also seen drinking a lot with his friends in particular. The drinking appears to lead them both to make some bad or questionable choices in their actions. From the sassy girl constantly throwing up on the subway, intoxicated in public, causing scenes with strangers, shouting loudly, having to be carried to a motel by Jeon-woo, and also hitting him for her personal, disagreeable, often questionable reasons. Jeon-woo drinks and feels he wants to hit on any young woman passing by in the street, possibly doing any studying at all for his schoolwork, or the example of leading him to think he should try to get revenge on the sassy girl by getting intoxicated and needing her to carry him home, which ultimately backfires on him, for he lands himself back in a jail cell again, as happened earlier. In The Sassy Girl, the two young characters have various relationships to elders in their community, whether it's a stranger on the subway or the actual parents on various chance interactions. When the sassy girl is telling the young man she sees on the subway to get up and give his seat to the elderly, though she's intoxicated, she's able to show some sort of respect for her elders, even though she eventually throws up all over the elderly man once she suddenly begins feeling sick from the vomit in her stomach. Also, her mother and father are constantly objecting to her wish to see Jeon-woo, for they question whether or not he has a future, for they feel he is somewhat dumb and a questionable character. Jeon-woo respects their wishes and spends much time apart from her because of this, trying to become better eventually. On the times Jeon-woo meets her father and mother, he does his best to be respectful and meet the requirements, but ends up looking unprepared and immature and unable to impress them. In the scene where Jeon-woo is doing his best to impress the sassy girl, he tries hard to put a big smile on her face, as is her request, by taking her to a theme park at night where he worked previously, having the music and merry-go-round happen on cue, along with fireworks, in order to make it a special occasion for her birthday. This all backfires when they happen into the path of a runaway soldier, who traps them inside a room at the theme park, putting their future into question until the police finally arrive to arrest the man, where they are set free. In their conversation with the runaway soldier, we find out that he had a lost love, to which the sassy girl expresses that she had a lost love too. Though through their communication and similarities, she is let go from the situation and eventually talks him out of hurting Jeonwoo when he feels he wants to bring violence against him. He also threatened to take Jeonwoo's girlfriend from him if he doesn't treat her right, which he feels is the same thing which happened to him in a similar circumstance. The sassy girl convinces the runaway soldier character that for guys like him, they wouldn't truly be able to love someone unless they let them go. The runaway soldier is quite moved by her. In The Sassy Girl, Jeonwoo spends much of his time trying to cure the pain of the sassy girl. As the journey continues, we learn more of her pain in regards to her previous love and how it was growing further until the tragedy. And all the while, Jeonwoo is constantly trying to be there for her in any way he can, whether it's kind words or often some action. The sassy girl likes to reflect and go into an imaginative world of story writing, storytelling, synopsises, where there is often a hero female character from the future who fights against villains and saves the man's life, her love interest. Her stories also show somewhat of a reflection of her helplessness in being able to fix the current situation, with choosing Jeonwoo as a partner against her parents' wishes, or even being unable to save her then previous love in her life. So it's also seemingly a bit of an escape too. The sassy girl is able to manifest coming back from the future with bringing her idea or story into her actual life in this respect, when the sassy girl and Jeonwoo both agree to give a letter to each other that they can't read until 2 years later in the future, to the very day and hour. The letters will sit in some time capsules underneath a secret tree by a mountain until they are both ready to read them and are both hopefully ready to take their relationship further. In relating her stories to Jeonwoo, she plays with the idea of changing the endings so they aren't sad. She reflects that this conclusion may have a bit to do with her mindset, and one reason which seems to make her question whether she's ready for this relationship. She also feels that she's living out her previous relationship in Jeonwoo, and this is causing her to feel much guilt and that the relationship isn't a particularly healthy one. There's also feelings of luck and also a spiritual element to her decision making, where the sassy girl feels the spirit of her ex-boyfriend wanted her to meet Jeonwoo, but that he eventually became jealous of him as the relationship grew. And this was playing on her mindset too, which was reasoning for them to spend some time apart. Jeonwoo, in his time away from her, is inspired to not waste any time and begin writing of his stories relating to her, and is eventually able to turn the script into a film, which is called The Sassy Girl. The time apart does them well, and they are able to reconcile. In The Sassy Girl, we see into the world of two young people on their quest for love, enduring, persevering, and finding ways to not succumb to the given pain in their life, and somehow grow into the people they've come to realize they want to be, while manifesting the life they want to live. Thanks for watching.